So, tree surgeons, this video is going to be covering where you should focus your efforts inside the business. The reason for this is a lot of the tree surgeons I speak to, they're kind of jumping from one thing to the next, not really focusing on the right thing inside the business. And the reason for this is obviously either they're not making the margins they want to, they're not got enough work coming in, maybe they're trying to scale to a next crew, and they're not managing to make it happen. And of course, when this is the case, we try and fix it. But if we're not focusing on the one thing that is actually causing the hurdle or the stepping stone, stopping us from reaching that goal, then we're wasting our time. And so this could look like, for example, if you need more work coming in, getting a new logo made, changing your company colours, having someone run your social media is not going to solve that problem. What you really need to do is focus on advertising and bringing more work in. And so hopefully with this video, you'll be able to establish first of all what it is that is stopping you from growing or what your constraint is, and then what you should do to fix that. And really everything else you should just not waste your time and effort on. And so we at ArbLaunch track these 5 variables in our advertising on the front end. This video is geared towards people that are kind of at the 1 to 2 crew range. If you've got a bigger business, your problems are more likely going to be how are you hiring consistently to bring in talent into the business? What does the kind of the office procedures look like to make sure everything's organized? They're very different problems. These are kind of smaller 1 to 2 crew size businesses. It's 1 to 2, sorry, size business, crew size business constraints. And these variables, these categories should be enough for you to establish where you should focus your effort. So the first thing you want to track is the inquiries that come into the business. How many of them there are from any source, whether advertising, organic from your website, any at all. Then you want to track what percentage become quotes, what percentage of the quotes you win, what is the revenue from that job, and then what's the ad cost from the entire investment from that advertising source. As a quick caveat, if you're struggling to bring in more work and you are running an advertising channel where you can't easily track the ad costs, at least per result, then that probably isn't a best use of your effort, because when you're bootstrapped and you're trying to get a lot of return from your ad spend, you really want things that you can track. So I'd recommend, if you are at that stage, choose an advertising platform or source where you can track really easily what you're spending and what you're getting back. So first of all, before we even look at these, if you have not got enough inquiries coming in, then the only thing you should focus on is advertising, whether that's leaflets, direct mail, local brochures, advertising on Google, advertising on Meta, so that's Facebook or Instagram. These things all produce inquiries quickly. I don't recommend doing a new website and SEO, because SEO can take months. If you need work now, you need channels that are going to bring work now. So as just a quick caveat, if you just need more work, that's the only thing you should focus on. No logos, no websites, no social media, just advertising. Either learn to do it yourself or pay someone to do the advertising, and then track these things to know if it's working. So all the inquiries that come into the business, you want to know how many of them become book quotes. If less than 75% of them become booked quotes, then that means that you have a front-end lead handling problem. It means that you are either not calling them quick enough, or you're not calling them, you're just emailing them when a lead comes in, or sending a text message. That's not sufficient. You want to call them as fast as possible. So if that number is below 75%, then, and you have enough leads coming in, that's where you need to focus, fixing that constraint. It means being quick, being persistent with your follow-up. Try and automate it where possible, so you're not typing out text messages after you've called every single time. Make sure your voicemail is good. And just getting that call as quick as possible will lift your conversion rate. So that's where you should focus. If you're converting 75% or more of the inquiries to book quotes, then we need to look at how many of them you win. So if you're winning less than 40%, let's do 40. You're doing less than 40% of the quotes you do are won, then it means probably you're not competitive enough, or something you're doing at the quote isn't right. So, I mean, the simple ones are, if you're not calling ahead, if you're going to be even 2 minutes late, then you should start doing that, because you should view the quote as an opportunity to follow up on a promise. If you said you'll be there at 3 p.m, you should be there at 2:55. and then you should, you know, if you're going to be late, if you're going to be there at 3:15, you should call ahead. That's something very simple. Other things are the structure of the quote, what you're saying, any resources you're using at the quote. You want to make sure that they're actually helping you close the job, win the work. And obviously the kind of the core thing is going to be how competitively you're priced. Now, on the flip side, if you're winning more than 70%, then that's an indication the other direction. Maybe you're actually undercutting yourself. Unless you're a business that's got zero debt, extremely lean costs, which most don't. And even then, that just means you should be pricing more and having a bigger margin. If you're winning more than 70% of the work on cold sources, word of mouth is something different. Word of mouth, they already know about you from a friend, from a family member. You'll close a much higher percentage. But from cold traffic you're advertising to, if you're winning more than 70%, you probably are one overrun job away from being in the red, because your margin is probably so slim, if it's even there at all. So 40 to 70% win rate is probably the sweet range. Then from all of those quotes you win, you want to track the revenue, and the average sort of job value will be about £1,000 before that, if you're VAT registered, obviously. Some jobs are going to be 350 quid. Some jobs are going to be 3.5 grand. You'll find it roughly averages out like that. If this number looks like 600 quid and you're winning loads of jobs, that's a really ripe indication that you're just not charging enough, that you're undercutting yourself. And I know a lot of you are going to be saying like, oh, I don't want to rip people off. It's like, your business will not survive if it doesn't make a healthy margin. If you're constantly one overrun away from being in the red, your business is not going to stay in the marketplace very long, and you're not going to be able to invest in kit, improve your service. So you really need to view as pricing your services healthily in margin as the right thing to do for yourself and for the customer. Because if you believe you have a great service and you do a great job for the customers you work for, then you want to be around for a long time, and you want to invest in the best kit and bring on the best guys that are trained well to do that. The only way you can do that is with a proper margin. So I would avoid the thinking of, oh, we want to be the absolute cheapest because we don't rip people off. It's not really a very in-depth way of looking at it. So you want to look at about that. Your rough kind of new job value averaged out wants to be about £1,000. Some areas it's going to be slightly more. Some areas a little bit cheaper, but around that. And then finally, you want to track the ad cost. And then you want to have a ratio of your ad cost to revenue produced. Now, if your return on ad spend is less than 10 to 1, so for every £1 you spend on advertising, you don't get at least £10 back, then that probably means that one of these things isn't quite right. You need to be, like we said, doing 75% of the inquiries into quotes, turning into quotes. You need to be winning a good percentage. And your pricing needs to be at a point where it can sustain advertising. This is another thing. If your margin is wafer thin, you can't afford to advertise at all. Your pricing should take into account advertising cost. So that's something definitely to look for. Now, if you're hitting over 10 to 1, keep advertising and try and make that number higher. If you improve these, this number will go higher. You'll hit 12 to 1 or 15 to 1. And if you start advertising more and better, obviously the cost is going to go down. And so you want to make your cost go down and your return obviously go up, standard. And so if you're above 10 to 1, I would highly recommend you keep advertising and just focus on these things. If you're at less than 10 to 1, if you're at the top end, you're 7, 8 to 1, then again, you need to fix these things and you need to have a think about your advertising channel. Is it the most effective? Because there are channels out there that you can do 30 to 1 on. And so you need to think about that. It could be that it's not being run very effectively. It could be that you're just you don't want to do online advertising. You really want to go the old school route, which is fine. You know, if you want to do leaflets and brochures and stuff, that's absolutely fine. It's harder to track and they're not necessarily as lucrative and scalable. But that's your freedom to choose that. But essentially, we now have kind of the health metrics for the business. And so, like we said, if you haven't got enough inquiries coming in, you advertise. If not enough of them are becoming book quotes, you need to work on your lead handling process. Like we said, the speed you follow up, what you're saying when you follow up, really important, making sure your voicemail is good. If they don't answer the first call them again, If they don't answer the second call, you're going to wait until the evening if it was the morning, or you're going to wait until the next morning, and you're going to leave a text message, and a clear text message. Write one really good text message every time, copy and paste it, and just change the name. Don't kind of be sending like off the cuff when you're hopping out of the van on a job a quick message. You want it to be professional and consistent every single time. And then finally, if the number of quotes you win is not sufficient, you want to really focus on, first of all, your pricing. You really want to have a close look at that. But then also you can do so many things at the quote that will increase your win rate. And making your quote, again, the same principle, structured and consistent every single time, so you're going through the same motion, means that you're going to be able to kind of track your performance as well. So if every quote you're just kind of off the cuff and winging it, that's fine if you think that's your style. But if you're wanting the business to be able to grow, you really need structure in your quote. So hopefully this should answer for you kind of where you should focus your efforts. And like I said, this is just for the front end of the business. If you're a bigger business and your issue is bringing like quality climbers in, or you're looking to hire someone in the office, for example, in an admin role, completely different problems, and you need to look at those constraints. But for most tree surgeons, the 1 to 2 crew range, which is nearly every tree surgeon in the country, this is going to be where you should look and where you should focus. Cheers for watching.